Hello, Conquerors. I am your host and humble guide maker, the Purple Bull Moose. Welcome back to the channel where we cover all things Old World. I'll be doing my best to give you all the tools necessary to take on the best 4X strategy game of the last decade at its highest difficulty. Please help support the channel so we can spread the good word about this criminally underrated game. We are halfway to the 500 subs needed to monetize, so at the risk of being cringy, I'd appreciate you helping me get across that first hurdle. Now, without further delay, let's get into it.
Hey! Welcome back, Conquerors. Easy victory wrap up for the end of the Assyria game, even with a world at war. I hope you enjoyed the playthrough. I know I did. We'll try to be posting these as quickly as possible. I apologize for the delay, but for all the old-time listeners, hopefully
This is a little bit better audio quality. I hope it's a noticeable difference. It was certainly a pain in the ass to get it set up. But now that it's here, quite frankly, it's going to drive me a little less crazy listening to my own videos back again and hearing all that static. My God, that was driving me insane. So hopefully it wasn't driving you as much as it was me via OCD. But we are here at another Q&A review of the last game. It was a fun game. It was a great game. Got to follow the leader by passing on from one warrior queen to the next, finishing up with the one-time princess, Queen Libali. And Libali did not disappoint, being able to, with her zealot abilities, clean up all those extra crossbows that we were able to recruit over onto our side. Absolute desolation. For those people who are new to the channel and maybe just coming across with the potato bump, him posting a nice little love letter to Old World on his channel, welcome. We do everything that we can to lower the barrier to entry for one of the best 4X strategy games of the last decade. I have played many 4X strategy games. I've been playing Civilization since 2 or 3. It's hard to remember that far back, but like we're talking 3rd grade in my friend's room when my parents wouldn't let me have my own video games. And I have been a fan of this genre for a while. And there is nothing that scratches the itch quite like Old World. So if you're stumbling upon this video, go ahead and watch the earlier ones. I apologize for the audio quality. It will be better from here on out, I promise. But there is a lot to learn. This was, I hope, a clinic on how to best administer warfare across the world. We had a few little wrecking balls worth of military production in Arrowhead, Assur, and Sea Crown, but we didn't even use Arrowhead. Arrowhead had, what, 61? That's, yeah, I mean, not quite close to the training produced coming out of Assur, 85. We were one-turning units at certain points with the overflow. But here at 28, we had 2 wrecking balls. So even if we needed to administer further war, we could have just geared up on our overall iron production that was already crazy high, tuned out swordsmen, and ran over both Greece, ran over Persia. Oh, wow. Is there any Haiti left? There's one city, it looks like up here. Yeah, and that's the only one that they have left. That's so funny. But this game was interesting. Everyone kind of picked a battle buddy. I messed up Greece. Persia messed up Haiti. But luckily for us, Egypt and Carthage had a nice little stalemate for like 2 decades, grinding down their troops and leading Carthage for an easy slaughter. I hope you guys enjoyed that one. I apologize. It wasn't much of a challenge. The AI is not always that much of a pushover. In fact, in the last 2 games that I've had, both the Babylon playthrough as well as the as well as this Assyrian playthrough, was kind of a little bit too easy. A little bit too easy. I didn't get to showcase half of the nice little tips and tricks, so I suppose that's good for the channel. There will be more tips and tricks to come, so stay tuned. Oxum is on deck if it's not already out at the same date as this. We'll see how quickly I get through the editing. But yes, very excited. Very, very excited. So let's go ahead and take a look at the end game. So again, for the uninitiated, Old World has a wonderful little end game thing. One, you can go ahead and check your timeline. You can see exactly how the entire game played out. You can toggle off the fog of war and take yourself back through the ages to see exactly how everything played out. Now, you can play it slowly and reminisce about how your empire expanded over the time, or simply click through. But as you can see, the AI always gets a nice little head start on you. Our scraggly little empire that we try to grab as many cities as we can. But all of these guys nice and established, borders expanding, building out specialists, the jerks. But then they started to rub up against each other, and apparently the wrong way. Looks like, yes, right here, beyond this mountain range, that's Carthage's only mistake. That is their Achilles heel. Unprotected, war broke out between them, and that, yep, that's where it was. And I guarantee you, let's go ahead and take a look at that. Let's see how that looks. Oh, did they lose a city first? All right, so it looks like Egypt was trying to expand out to this spot. I want to see how that all shook out. Oh, well, there I kicked off. There's the destruction of Greece. So Egypt expands out here. I wonder if it's going to tell us if the war breaks out here. Played in double time. There we go. Lost that. And then the grind just kept happening. We polished off a couple of other cities here, built up our forces, swung them around from the western front out to the east, and then while these guys were fighting in this mountain path, grinding troops back and forth, we pummeled into Carthage. Oh my god, it was a slaughter. Look how fast that happened. Oh wow, desolation. That's how it looks. You know, when you catch somebody off guard, and when you have access to everything we had access to. Also punched into Egypt, and then chewed through Egypt while Persia was expanding into Haiti. Poor Haiti. Oh God, Haiti, thank you for your sacrifice. You were a wonderful meat shield while we finished off this game. And what a game it was. Had a lot of fun doing it. Let's go ahead and hop back. Check out some of the stats from the game. Ranked number 1 in a lot of spots, national wealth, total population, but that's just always going to come from conquest. Specialists, also from conquest. Who needs to build specialists when you can simply steal them from the AI? Workers produced. Wow. Really? Ah, well, good on me. I'm not normally this high in workers produced. 24. That's a little absurd. I'm kind of proud of myself. But I'm surprised. That's a lot of workers built for not a particularly impressive economy. Might have to review my play on that. Look at that through a new light. Units lost. Number 1, baby. Most warfare administered, least amount of casualties. Only lost 34 units. Next person behind us was Greece, who we probably took all 55 of their units. And then, oh my lord, from the people we actually went up against, Egypt and Carthage. What a bloodbath. Persia lost a whole bunch. It was a pretty tight fight. Haiti really made them pay for it. But that's how the game goes. You know, you will lose units. We lost 34. 34! Ah, it's painful even to think about. When you come from games like over at Civ, where you may lose 1. Expect to lose units. Expect to take on casualties. It's just a fact of this game. Military units killed, 165. Absolute slaughter. Happy to see it. Happy to see it. Rest of it is just kind of fun. Stole wonders, didn't build any, but thank you, Carthage. You did a wonderful job with your donations. Checking out the other stats. Growth shoots up through the roof. Again, this is when we took other people's places that had their own growth built in, so not particularly impressive. Civics in the same deal. Didn't really have a lot of civics until we started stealing other people's. But training. Training we always had a good amount. We were in the dogfight right up until, but oh my god, what happened, Persia? Maybe we're just producing units the entire time, but look how much it just takes off. It just starts flying there at the end. Culture. Again, mostly stole. Before that, we were at the bottom of the tier. You don't have to go tall, guys. You don't have to go tall. You can be knuckle-dragging barbarians and just rule the world with iron and gold, if you so choose. And it's a fun play style, so it's nice to be able to take on both. And in the same vein, happiness. Who needs it? Who needs to maintain nice levels of happiness when you can just abuse your people like an absolute tyrant? We managed to instead keep relative peace. Oh, yikes. Really fell off the rails here at the tail end. But you guys saw for the majority of the game, we had most families deep into friendly. And the ones that we were really focusing on, the Champions family that was producing the majority of our units, well, we kept them quite very happy. And we could have done better by, giving cities out more appropriately. I think these guys ended out with like a whole bunch of cities. Yeah, 11, 6, 7. So yeah, we should have spread the cities out more evenly, but we were in the end game and we just wanted to go ahead and bring that to a close. But we were definitely able to maintain control via religion. And I do want to make sure that that is evident to everybody who has a chance to play through this game. There are other ways to keep control of your families outside of happiness. You can shower them with luxuries and boost your relationship with the religion, and sometimes that's enough. It certainly was this game. Science, same deal. We kept up in the pack for a good chunk of time, long enough to get our axes and our bows. And then once we had really access to enough laws, we kind of didn't really pay attention to science as much after that. I mean, again, you don't need to do your homework when you can steal it from the nerd next to you. But it was certainly a fun way to play. Certainly a fun way to show off tactics. Cash was fine. Orders, yes. Always want to be up in the pack on orders. Orders, no matter what playstyle you're going for, orders are life. So make sure you're keeping up with all of that. Food was a mess. Iron production, yeah. Finally turned it on when we had access to the swordsmen and we needed more iron. Very good. Stone. Whoa. Okay, AI. Well, yeah, I mean, Carthage built it because they had all those damn wonders. Yeah, that's probably why Egypt was so pissed. Carthage kept building the wonders out from under them, even though they had a whole bunch of stone production, but they really took that off. Interesting. And wood. Yeah, we produced a lot of wood that game. You need wood to build siege towers. Military score. Solid up in the middle of the pack, always very powerful the entirety of the game. We know who had the most territory. You can take a look at the map. Territory explored, resource prices. So yes, this was a war game, and you can tell by the graphs that show for it. Stone coming out and being the lowest cost resource the entire time means people aren't building their cities. They're using iron and wood to build up their armies, and they're feeding them. And you can see that in the scores. Woof. What a bloody game. What a bloody game. Yep. Watching everybody take a nosedive when they got conquered. That was us. That was us. That was us. Just out here stealing people's points. That's the name of the game. Legitimacy. Yep. Same deal. Want to make sure you're up in the pack. So legitimacy and orders. You can tell where our priorities are. And family opinion. We had some rocky areas. We had some rocky areas during the conversion period, but right here during the conquest, when we needed it most, we were keeping our families very, very happy, especially the hunters and the champions. And that is important for making sure that the war effort went off without a hitch. And that was all through Christianity. So good old Jesus is sometimes all you need to keep the family together. But that's enough about yammering on about what happened in the game. I want to get to your guys' questions. First question comes from Vlad Spirin. Extra point for not re-rolling what was at first glance looked like a very bad location. I grabbed this one. This was on episode 1, but I kind of wanted to explain it. First off, where the hell did our nation start? Here we go. And on this starting point, you're right. Not a great start. We did have at least one growth tile, some culture, and most importantly, ore. This tile alone would have made me not reroll this start. You can make do, especially on Assyria, by just throwing down, if you don't have growth tiles, you can at least throw down a granary and make it work. But we made the food game work by going very, very scarce. You can get away with that. We didn't have really any bread baskets. Like, we didn't take time to build a lot of farms at any point during this game. I think we were like relying the majority of our food off of like this one camp tile for plus 20. So you don't need food in your starting area for it to be considered a good start. Especially for a champion start, if you have access to this 2, or with the champion bonus being a plus 50, 3 early training, it's a lot. It's a lot, and we certainly abused it to its fastest extent to pump out all those axemen for the war against Greece. So definitely not a bad start. Definitely want to make sure that I'm referencing that. I appreciate the accommodations or the accolades, but no, this was a decent start. Not to mention all these hills, all that spelled out to me was a whole bunch of axes that I could produce. Didn't need them, but it's nice to know that they were there. In the same way that we didn't need the food, simply just nice to know it was there. But yeah, wood was scarce on this map. Wood was scarce on this map until we got down to Arrowhead. But I definitely wouldn't say that this was necessarily a bad start, and certainly not a reroll start. Play the hard starts, guys. That's one of the best ways to get better at the game. Make the early game a little bit more difficult for you, because, if you can survive the early game, if you can survive the raiding period, then you can really move on with your skills. It's a great way to give yourself a little bit of a testing ground. Next question comes in from Eric Kang Strum. Great video, again. That trick that you use just before settling your first city, where you somehow place the garrison and suddenly gets more tiles than you're supposed to. You need to explain this in detail to us, noobs here. Also, how do you calculate how much damage you give /take versus an enemy? Good questions. So let's go ahead and do the enemy part first. You can figure out how much damage you're going to take or dish out by selecting the unit in question and then putting them in a position. So for instance, if you have to be at war for this to occur. You can't just do this if you're at peace. So you can always declare war to figure out, is this the right time to declare war, and then backtrack and take it back if it's not. But if you click on this unit, for instance, this longbow, we can tell that right here, based off of where my range is, which you can see on this this red dotted line that extends out of it. It's not really clear with all this crap going around, but you can see it like along this mountain range when I'm hovering over it, that red dotted line, that is how far I can shoot. So everything inside that shooting range from my current position, it'll tell me how much damage I do. But if I move over here, i.e. closer to the swordsman, you can see that my damage goes from 4 up to 5. So here it does 8. So you can tell how much damage you'll receive in return by doing the same, clicking on them, and then moving around to see how much damage they would do from each angle that they would do it at. If you have someone like the crossbow here, and you go into position, and you have to be in the position, and then you hover over the person, you can see how much damage you do, and then by shooting them, the collateral damage will do by the arrows piercing through and attacking into them. So you can kind of add up how much damage that you're going to be doing to figure out if you're going to be able to clinch the kill or not, and what's the best way to clinch that kill. So that is how I go about doing the calculations for damage. When we're talking about your first part of the question, let's go ahead and restart this game. All right, so whenever you come into a game, and I'll probably be touching base on this in every single first episode and probably every Q&A, it comes up a lot because it is a very powerful aspect of this game. You can steer the engine on where it'll put down event-driven improvements. So when an event is occurring and it's going to give you a urban improvement or a rural improvement or any resource, when it's going to give you something that's going to take up a tile, you can tell it where to put it. So the event in this case being settling our first city. Whenever you settle your capital, you're going to get a garrison. So if we want to place the garrison, for instance, here specifically, we can go in and we can drop the improvement. That is going to have this improvement icon. that is going to steer the game, that is going to be giving you an improvement, doesn't matter what that improvement is, and it'll drop that improvement in this spot. By dropping the improvement in this spot, it is going to grab these extra tiles. When you drop the improvement here, or you drop any urban improvement, it is going to give you the surrounding tiles. So if we drop it right here, it's going to give us these 2 additional tiles when we settle the city. That's not outlined right here, but it will give you them. Now, I don't know what episode it is, so I guess you're just going to have to go back and watch the whole series. No, I'm just playing. But there is one episode where we are getting a cult shrine. And we get the cult shrine, and I put down this pin to steer the cult shrine in a direction where it's going to be going out, grabbing me those extra tiles, which will get me access to an extra resource. When you are grabbing tiles, the engine will actually go 1 tile further if it has a resource on it. So let's see if we can find a good way to showcase that. Not really any here. Yeah, sorry, not able to showcase that. But again, we can go ahead and showcase this by dropping our family here. It'll drop the garrison right here, and it'll grab these extra 2 tiles, like voila. So definitely learn that tip and trick. It's useful here on the first turn. It's useful later when events are going to be giving you any other urban improvement. It's just a great way to get additional tiles inside of your cities, because especially if it's an urban improvement, especially if it's a hamlet or a shrine, meaning you can place it anywhere, it doesn't have to follow other adjacency rules, then make sure you're using that to expand your borders in any way you can. Or take advantage of any adjacency that might come from that individual tile. But good question. I'm sure you're not the only person that had it, and everybody take note, because that's a super important thing to be doing in your first turns. Next question comes from Dr. Phil Chemist. Well, he's got quite a few questions. New to Old World, this is an excellent video, and I've subscribed. Couple of questions. When saying stuff like, I am following the river, it would be nice if you briefly hit the hotkey N. Yeah, that's a good hotkey. This is going to be showing the puts up for the yellow hexes overlay to show where the rivers run. For me, it's a little difficult to make out the rivers in the video. I still don't quite get how to optimize fighting, like what promotions to take, which general stats are best to look for, how to use terrain. Will you be covering that kind of stuff? It seems like you have a good handle on it, but may have internalized the optimization. Do damaged workers take longer to build any improvements? It seems like you sometimes healed them and sometimes not. Good question. Unfortunately, on the first one, I don't think I'm going to be able to know or be able to react, to be able to hold down N every single time I'm referencing a river. So I apologize if I'm not able to fulfill that particular request. However, allow me to answer the rest of your questions. I still don't quite get how to optimize fighting, like what promotions to take. Well, let's talk about promotions. There's a lot of good promotions. Whenever you are deciding whether or not to take a promotion, what you really want to be considering is, what is the next stage of the game? Who is my next target? Where is the next battlefield? If the next battlefield is going to be taking in a certain type of terrain, grab promotions or prioritize promotions that go along with that terrain. Highlander for hills, Ranger for forests, etc. You want to make sure you're taking advantage of letting your troops be set up for success wherever you're going to be using them next. Are you going to attack into cities? Warden and Besieger are very good. And of course, we're playing Assyria right now, so we have access to Focus 1 on all of our troops. So going Focus 2 and 3 to get extra chance for crit certainly never hurts. I didn't use it this time because I don't typically like to take the stacking promotions or 2 sets of the stacking promotions on any one unit. So because all of my units here have access to Focus, I'm going to be taking Focus because that is a stacking promotion. And I'm saying I'm going to be taking that as opposed to defense, as opposed to strike, as opposed to combat, that all have a 1, 2, 3 stackable promotion that you can follow along on that promotion train. I'm almost never going to be taking 1, 1, 1, and 1. I'm not going to be taking combat 1, strike 1, defense 1, and focus 1. That's just silly. Those promotions aren't really good on level 1, but they get really good when you get up to level 3. I don't sleep on combat. Combat, in my opinion, is the best. Promotion chain. So if you can grab combat 1 as the first promotion on your units, absolutely utilize that. I think I go over, if you want to take a deep dive on promotions, I think I do touch a good amount on them in my military tactics guide, link in the bio. So go ahead and give that a read if you would really like to do a deep dive more than I'm going to be doing right here in this video. I do plan on eventually doing some more educational videos. Right now, I don't really have the time to do anything more than record and edit these playthroughs, so I apologize. I do have a full-time job, but like, comment, and subscribe. Who knows? If I could actually become a streamer, that'd be weird. But it would be cool, and I would love to obviously make more edited videos to give a video aspect to the guides that I've created before in the past. I certainly want to make sure that you guys are well taken care of. It's been a true joy to be as embraced as I have been by the community. So I want to produce more content. I just unfortunately don't have the time. Do damaged workers take longer to make any improvement? Yes, they take an extra year if they are damaged. Sometimes I heal them, sometimes I don't. When they are in friendly territory, they will heal 1 health per turn. If I don't plan on utilizing them for as long as it would take for them to heal all on their own, then I won't heal them. But if I need them soon, then I need to put in orders and time to heal them up, then I will heal them. And there's not a fine rule for that, unfortunately, that I can lead you down. So you're going to have to go back based off of your best wisdom on that one, but the best of luck to you. Next question comes in from John Yoga. Shout out to you, John Yoga. Thank you so much for all the comments you've been putting in, man. You have been a really nice support on so many of my videos. So I really appreciate the effort that you are making on supporting my efforts. It goes a long way, man. It does not go unnoticed. Hello, Purple Bull Moose. I am 3/4 through my first game, and suddenly I am being ruthlessly attacked by Persia. Does the AI consider attacking you if it's somehow, via scouts, know your army is weaker than theirs? Guessing before you answer that this is the case. This means that even if you want to strive for a peaceful, tall game, you need to keep a decent military presence. Correct me if I'm wrong. Well, John, it really comes down to the magic number of 100. If you are able to keep your opinion above 100, you are for the most part in the clear. Also, if you're able to keep your opinion above 100 and you have access to your ambassador, go ahead and run those peace missions. The AI does not declare surprise war. It's very gracious in that regard. Now, granted, when you drop below, when you drop into negative opinion and you have peace, expect that peace to maybe not last so long. Haiti didn't have the option to break peace with me because they were getting their teeth kicked in. But I guarantee you, if they weren't, we would have to worry about a knife getting shoved into our back from the Hittites. So if you're able to keep your opinion above 100, even if you are weaker, even if you are primitive, then they will, for the most part, leave you alone. They'll consider you a buddy, and they like to keep their little buddies around. Now, moving on from that, they don't need scouting, big guy. They own just like we are able to see the AI being both their power level and their knowledge level, they're able to see you. So if you have bad science, but a similar power level, they might still try to come after you as well. All of that goes into their decision making as to whether or not to declare war. So stay vigilant. You kind of need to keep all aspects of this up. But again, you can go ahead and ignore all that latter advice by just following the first. The magic number is 100. Keep yourself safe.
Next question comes out from the one and only Fiona Wim. Thank you very much, Fiona. Really appreciate all the support that you specifically have been giving all the videos. Great video as always. I'm looking forward to seeing how you conquest another nation, since that's the area of the game that I tend to avoid on higher difficulties. I appreciate the city renaming. It's a good tip and also helpful to visualize how you are thinking about specialization. One minor meta comment, take or leaves obviously, but I know you had asked for this sort of feedback. I have. Would be to narrate. Heal the axeman rather than heal you when you can. I know it's habitual, and I don't want to make you self-conscious. Not too late for that. but at least watch gameplay vids while also doing something else like knitting or folding laundry. So more specific narration is helpful for me to follow along with, again, minor but maybe helpful. First off, actually very helpful. Fiona, this came in, let's see, 2 weeks ago, my time. So, and I wanted to let you know that you're not the only person who's made this kind of comment, and because of people like you, I now have a post-it note that is sitting on my desktop that says use proper nouns. So it is certainly a concerted effort that I'm going to be using to break bad habits, make good habits, and hopefully that pays off in the gameplay. So I really appreciate the critiques, and I really, really do appreciate the critiques to anybody else who's got a bone to pick. Please bring it. I want to make these videos better. I want to do it better for the community. So if there's things I can do to better explain my thought process, to better make a viewing experience, please let me know, because I want to change.
Next question comes from another frequent flyer, Breakfast of Champions. Thank you for the support. Those are some scary difficulty settings. Really interesting. Did you get the free epic law automatically at the start? Also, people, comment on the algorithm. This channel has not yet attracted the bots. Well, yeah, appreciate the shout out. Always appreciate the support. But speaking of the epic's laws, so that is not something that's from Assyria. That is something that's specifically from Sargon. Sargon was the initial leader. Let's go ahead and take a peek at him. Let's see if it gives us the full information in the timeline. King Sargon II. This guy, when you play him, you will get not only the righteous feat as the commander, but you will also get epics immediately from the game, which means that is not only the, what would it be? That is not only the 120 science investment, but also the 400 civics investment right off the rip from the get-go. And you're playing Assyria, so we're playing a lot of battle-hardened gameplay. So epics is definitely very good for this playstyle. Now, as I probably said at the beginning of this playthrough, I'm a big fan of exploration. Exploration is an amazing law. Ignore the stats that this tooltip tells you. That is not the point of exploration. Exploration's main power comes from sending people out exploring. And because you have this law enabled, it'll also give you access to all those wonderful event chains. But for this playthrough, epics is certainly not bad. It's certainly very, very good for getting your early cities off the ground from weak to at least developing culture. It's not a great source after that, but it certainly helps. And I suppose it actually certainly helps with the newly conquered cities if you have a lot of battle going on immediately outdoor. But regardless, it's a good culture game. And when you play as Sargon II, it's free. So definitely would advocate for playing Sargon if you're trying to give Assyria a try. He's a really fun leader to take. Next question comes from Ogostic. Hey, great video. Question. How do you get those extra leaders when starting the game? I only get one per nation. Well, that's going to come from a DLC. Obviously, I am an advocate of this game, so which means I'm a huge advocate for the DLC. If you are catching this video when it first comes out, I do think that we have a sale going on actually right now, probably for the whole package. So let me go take a look at that for you. Oh yeah, guys, there's a huge sale going on right now. Everything is at least 30% off, if not 90% off. I mean, even the new DLC, Wrath of Gods, it's been out for like 3 days, and that's also on a discount. It went from like $10 to $9. If you're catching this video when it first comes out, support the game, buy this stuff, guys. Buy the DLCs, they are so worth it. I mean, just to go through them, Heroes of the Aegean is a lot of fun because it adds extra scenarios. Sacred and Profane adds a whole bunch of various events around the religions, which is obviously, as you can tell through this playthrough, is a big aspect of my gameplay. So I would highly recommend that one. And I believe it is the Wonders and Leaders. I think it's called something like that, but whatever one gives you the wonder, gives you all the extra leaders inside of the different nations. Obviously, you want to be picking up the one that gives you the Kush. Kush are so fun, although I think that might be Sacred and Profane, if I am thinking correctly. But guys, you'll get a good look at the next playthrough that I'm going to be putting out soon for Axum. Such a fun nation. Such a fun nation. Such fun leaders. Definitely buy the new DLC. Buy all the DLCs, especially while they're on sale. Oh, and we got the good doctor coming back, Dr. Phil, chemist. Thank you for the episode. I'm learning a lot about the game from the series. Do you consider harvesting resources with scouts? On the turns where you had to sell everything to get more positive event choice, 26 minutes into the video, it looked like the scout could have harvested a gold. Is that not worth the order? Okay. So the short answer for whether or not I'm going to be harvesting resources at any time is that harvesting is not necessarily a good use of orders. If I am going to be harvesting, it's not going to be on every turn that I'm going to be hovering over a resource. It's going to be with a specific goal in mind. Especially for me, playing on the highest difficulty where my orders are extra restricted in the early game, I am not going to be harvesting resources, especially when I'm further away from my cities. Harvesting gives you less and less returns the further you are away from your borders. So if you have like a really good resource of gold, like horses, camels, or gold, right outside your borders, you might want to camp it. I mean, the harvest here, this close, is plus 50. And sometimes that's exactly what you need to get over the hump to get an event passed on through. So yes, there are times and places where you should be harvesting if you can afford the order spend. Another good example is culture. Culture is a hard to come by resource early game. So if you are trying to get your, for instance, cleric seat to developing culture level quickly, and there are a whole bunch of furs or incense or lavender that's really nearby, then you can pop in between those to grab the 10, 10, 10, 10 culture to really get you up over that 100 threshold to get to developing. So that way you can do things like the Found Religion Project. And that goes for if you're trying to chase a particular wonder, but you need to get over the threshold, you're trying to get gold, or if you just need a good chunk of iron, stone, or food to produce that much needed whatever. But if I don't have a particular goal in mind, I'm not going to be wasting my time. Because that's what I often consider it. I consider it a little bit of a waste of time to spend a lot of your orders harvesting. But again, if you got extra orders to burn, if there's nothing else for you to be doing with your orders, then yeah, no harm, no foul in harvesting some resources where and when you can. So if you saw a spot where I could have made my gameplay more efficient by harvesting, I mean, hats off to you, Doctor. Beat me at the game. Do good, do better. Hell, if you want to come over and make your channel, I would love to have my own old world content to watch. But yes, I'm not perfect at this game. I don't think you can be. But I would love to know ways I can improve. So if you can drop a timestamp for when you find things that you see that I am missing, let me know. So that way I can go back and review and I can see how I can better improve my gameplay. Never hurts to get educated. Plus 2 wisdom. Another question from John Yoga. Thank you for the video. On the topic of war, the Thracians tribe has formed an alliance with me. Yet the troops have not joined the fight, even though they are not far from the battles. Is this a bug? Yeah, we haven't had a lot of early diplomat gameplay. Axum, the next playthrough, isn't going to provide you any opportunities for that either, my friend. So I'm sorry, but when I do a Carthage playthrough, I'll definitely be able to showcase that. So alliances are a tricky thing. Alliances, let's go, tribal. So alliances are a tricky thing. You can form an alliance with somebody, but when at the time that you're forming the alliance, that will not pull them into the war. It is not your ally's job to fight your wars for you. It is your ally's job to protect you against aggressors. So if you are already in a war and you make an alliance, they won't jump on board. If you are in a war or if you make an alliance and you start a war, they will also not jump on board. They will only help you in defense. Also, when it comes to tribes specifically, they are a lot less likely to move their troops away from their borders. When you make an alliance with a tribe specifically, that only does one thing in particular. So you can move it with your units and you can attack with your units, which you can drive them into the right direction. If you have extra orders to be moving them towards the front lines, they'll take care of the rest from there, but they will not fight anything that is outside of their move range, meaning they're not going to take their units from like 3 sites away and move them towards the front lines to fight your wars for you. But if any straggling units from that nation come close to the beehive, they will strike immediately. Now, they will be able to attack other tribes. They will be able to attack any raiding barbs. They will attack on site. So you can use them as a meat shield, which is probably the best way to utilize them. And frankly, if they are in a position where they can take out another tribe, they can actually steal that tribe's site. Now, when you have a allied tribe, that tribe will not raid. They will not raid you. They will not raid anyone. They will simply amass their units to allow you to utilize them where and when you can. So if there is that's actually a super interesting concept that I haven't been able to use yet, but is a thought that I've been trying to wrap my head around. What happens when you ally with a tribe? You allow them to amass their units. Then you cancel the alliance to bring yourself only down to peace, meaning they still won't raid you, but then they will take that critical mass of units that they build up over the decades that you've had them in an alliance and send them at an enemy. Could be really, really fun for a one-on-one game. Grilled PB&J, if you're listening, you didn't hear that. Could be really cool for a one-on-one game. Could be really cool in other circumstances, but unfortunately, at the high difficulties, the AI will just steamroll the tribes, which is really too bad. There's a lot of fun mechanics that I think would be nice to mix in there. Maybe there could be a game type that boosts the strength of tribes. I would certainly like to see it myself, but that's not always a guarantee. The developers are giving us more than enough content to play with, so beggars will not be choosers. But to answer your question, no, it's not a bug. That is acting as intended, and it's a tool that is unfortunately not super intuitive, but that does not make it any less powerful. If you learn how to wield your allies as tribes, they are a very, very, very strong asset to have in your back pocket. And hopefully I'll get an opportunity to showcase exactly what that's like when we play Carthage. But it might be a little while. We have Axum. To get through. And then after that, I have promised to the Reddit community that I was going to play a wonder hoarding game with Egypt. So maybe in 3 playthroughs we'll get to Carthage. We'll see. Next up is Brian Colby. Thank you for your videos and guides. I learned a lot from your talk, from your Tall Babylon guide, and put up my first W on the grade. Obviously not a question, but Brian Colby, just want to give you a big shout out. These are the comments I live for. This is why I do the entire channel. Your success is my success, big guy. So congratulations on the first W, and throw in some screenshots. Drop it over in the subreddit. Would love to see a little bit more of your timeline of the success. And anybody else, let me know when you get. I'll give you a shout out over on the Q&As. Next up, we have the one and only Tren Gilly. Tren is a old critic. Yeah, I think he would approve of that particular title of the guides when they first come around. The guy's got a lot of game knowledge in and of himself, and he has been around from the early days. So I appreciate him keeping me on the level. Love to hear the questions that are coming on in from an old hat like Tren. I think you should have picked Ambassador from one of your unhappy families instead of the non-allied courtier. You've been so lucky you haven't had more unrest, but otherwise it's going great. It's a good point. There are several times where you can choose to pick your council seat members, and that is a huge bonus towards your family. So let's take a look at our families. For instance, here All right, so for instance, let's look over at the Hunters. Hunters currently at negative 233, so this won't save us. But if we go over to the Chancellor or any council seat, and we select somebody from the proper family, so for here, the oligarch herself, we can choose, and well, first off, that saved us 100. 100, wow, but that's because it's specifically her. So but the family in general will give you a plus for having a council member from their family. Yeah, so right here, it's a plus 40 for making the chancellor from that family, which is a huge boost. Now, granted, because it's also the oligarch, it's going to give us an even further boost to her own personal opinion because she is the chancellor herself. That's an extra 40. So, always very nice. But definitely something to keep in mind. Trends got me 100% right on that one. If I was in a situation where I could have instead pushed myself over the limit on a particular family that was peeved and cute at me, then I certainly should have picked it from the family to get that extra 40 boost. Not I wouldn't say it's necessarily a misplay. It would depend on who I chose and for what reason I chose them. But it also depends on what I'm more worried about. Am I worried about a nation leading a war against me too early, or am I worried about my family's leading to rebels? All depends, all situational, but certainly something to keep your eyes on. Next question comes from David Swinewort. Really like the series. Hopefully more content to come soon, question mark. Yeah, of course. More playthroughs to come soon. And as I think I've mentioned earlier here in this Q&A, I would absolutely love to be able to produce more and more content. I mean, it's really just something that I would love to see more of on both the subreddit on YouTube myself. So if anybody else wants to make content, reach on out. I'd love to help you out in any way I can. But yes, educational information was how I got my start by writing the guides. Link over in the description of the video, guys. Check them on out. So I would love to make video components of those guides and playthroughs. It's just a time aspect. Keep supporting the channel. Maybe we'll get around to it at some point. Hopefully soon. But again, it really just comes down to how much time I have. Next up is the green mushroom. Thank you for your content. I was able to rock a wide Assyria, likely 3 difficulty level below you. Super fun. Also, what's the benefit of connected cities? I don't really get the overlay. I connected roads to rivers, to bodies of water, and for some cities it works, and for others it didn't, even though the yellow goes to all the cities. Good question. An important aspect of the game. Well, first off, I mean, there is the classics you can see right here in the tooltip. When a city is connected, it'll get this little linked chain icon. That means they are connected to the capital city. That means you get plus 2 growth, 1 happiness per year. You get a minus 10% to the overall upkeep that your urban improvements are going to be costing your city to maintain. And because we have... Well, if you're playing Carthage or you have the Colossus, then you also get these 2 extra bonuses. So, quite frankly, Colossus, amazing wonder for going wide, because if you connect all your cities, that's plus 2 civics in each and every single one of those cities. And if you're playing Carthage, an extra 10 gold in your pocket never hurts. Now, how does connected work? To be connected, your cities need to either have an urban tile, a river, a road, or the open ocean, connecting them to the capital's specific tile here. So that means that if you, for instance, in this city, just because we have a river coming through this city, this river is not touching an urban improvement. So the road has to go from the river. It has to touch the river. It can't be right here next to where the river gives access to their connection. It has to literally go all the way to the river. If we were missing this one tile, this road wouldn't work. So you need to make sure it's connected fully and all the way. If it's not connected all the way, no dice. Simply how it works. Let's see, is any cities not connected? No, the AI does typically a really good job of connecting all their cities. This one is not. So if we were to take a look at the city, from this city center, connected here through urban, and here's another urban tile. If we just had one road here, that would connect all the way through. But because this is missing, it's not connected. And that's just kind of how it rolls. If you are talking about connected to the ocean, that adds one extra level of complexity, meaning that you need line of sight. So if you had the fog of war, for instance, blocking these two cities, like if we couldn't see these tiles right here, then this would not be a connected city because you have not verified that you can get from this point to this point. So you'd have to come, grab vision, see that there's a connection in the sea here, and then it'll be connected. But yes, very good question, very important, and frankly, definitely something you should be keeping an eye on. I mean, just for mobility alone, take away all the extra benefits, just making sure your units can get from point A to point B expeditiously is definitely useful. Next question coming in from Mike Nardini. I have learned a lot from these videos. The series is helpful in demonstrating military tactics and maximizing unit effectiveness. Thank you for producing these videos. In the 2 series I have watched, it seems you're able to complete a lot of ambitions in a short amount of time. It would be interesting in future videos if you could share your thoughts and ambitions. In my games, I tend to decline ambitions because at the time, they seem either unachievable or would cause me to pursue a different path to victory. Thanks once again. Okay, so ambitions. What's fast? What's slow? 120 is a good overall point to consider that you should be wrapping up the game. If all the AI wasn't pummeling each other in the first game, if Assyria themselves are Assyria here, if you check out the Babylon game, Assyria could have clearly ran away with the game. Would have been very hard for us to deal with, but they got boxed in by their own ally and refused to go to war with them. So we've gotten very lucky that the AI hasn't raced us down to victory, because around like the 120 marker, the 140 marker, that's when stuff gets dicey. Typically in my games and playthroughs. So we'll see if we can get some evidence of that later on. So aiming for getting your ambitions about 1 every 10 turns is a good marker. Don't fret if you fall behind that marker. It's totally fine, completely reasonable. The world isn't over. You will find that you will be getting some ambitions that are a lot easier to get, some ambitions that are a lot harder to get. Sometimes you will go to war like we have, and it'll be kill 15 units. Easy, done. Capture 3 cities. I'm already in the process of capturing 2. Sometimes you will get absolute layups that you will be given and being able to complete in 2 seconds that align immediately with your goals. But if you are finding yourself being awarded an ambition that is completely contrary to your goals, like build 4 wonders when you haven't built 1, get 10 specialists, 10 elder specialists, but you haven't built a single specialist, or go to war and you got no units, whatever the situation is, ditch it. If you have no ambitions here, it typically takes about 5 turns for the game to give you another one, and it's better to waste 5 turns idling and not going for an ambition than chasing an ambition that's taking you in a complete 180. Now, that being said, there are plenty of pivot points in this game. After we kicked the crap out of Greece, we could have instead turned around to do a econ game. We had gotten some great econ. We had gotten some great spaces. We could have built it up. We could have boosted our science via religion. We could have spread both Christianity and Mani to all of the places. We could have gotten polytheism to spread paganism through all the places. We could have gone wide science and taken it from there. Definitely a possibility. And we could have gone in a completely different direction, but we decided to stick to war all the way through. So you don't have to play the game any one way. And unfortunately, there's not a clear way for me to tell you which ambitions to take and which ones not to take. That's up to you, my friend. And that's part of the fun. You get to decide how the story of your nation unfolds, because more than a war game, more than a city building game, more than a politics game, this is a game of stories. So as long as you're enjoying the story that you're telling, then there's really no wrong way to play. But I would, if we're talking about, fast and loose rules, try to make sure that you're able to complete whatever ambition that they're giving you in no longer than 20 turns. 20 turns is even stretching it. If you take a look at your situation, if you take a look over at the ambition you're trying to complete, and you're like, ugh, it's going to take me longer than 20 turns to do this. Let it go. Let it go. Re-roll the dice in 5 turns, and hopefully that you get something you can complete in 10 to 15 turns. And, well, you're right there where you left off, even in the worst case scenario. And there's enough of a diversity in the ambitions that you can be awarded that I wouldn't worry about it too much. You will be given something that's accomplishable. It's rare that I find myself denying 3 ambitions in a row. But yeah, that's the fast and loose rules for that one. Aim and zone. Thank you very much for all your comments as well, man, by the way. So definitely happy to answer a question for you. I feel I'm leveling up. Thanks for the great vid. But in these 2 moments, 53 minutes in and 57 minutes in, why not suppress Manichaeism, or blah, blah, blah. I can never pronounce that word. Why not suppress Mani Descent? It's a good question. So let's take a look at it. So first off, there's plenty of times where we've had upset religions. So suppressing dissent is a double-edged sword. On one end, it's already going to make people unhappy, but you do remove the dissent. And the dissent is a +5 rebel chance inside of the city, which is pretty brutal. But we have the benefit of our veneration theology, which is minus 5 rebel chance inside of the city. So that's already being counteracted by simply Christianity existing. And as long as the families are also in line, then, well, don't have to worry about too much about rebellion. And even though it doesn't take a lot, it takes, in this case, literally 1 turn to go ahead and do it. It's 1 turn that I'm not getting, some extra boosts where I need it. So it's just, how much of a problem is it really going to solve? It's a tough one. It's certainly a tough one, and I don't necessarily want to spend my training on it because it costs 100 civics to go ahead and perform. Essentially, you're sending guys out into the streets to crack down on a religion. And vibe-wise, I don't think it passes the check, but I will say that I don't use that project very often, mostly because I don't find that the rebel chance is that pervasive where I really have to worry about it. So I guess that's the reason for you, man. It's not enough of a problem for me to spend production time on it. So, yeah. And one final shout out before we go ahead and end. Big thank you to Super Saiyan. Just wanted to give you a shout out, man. I appreciate all the comments and all the videos. You're really feeding the algorithm. And thank you to everybody else. Really, guys. It goes a long way to putting this video out there. And I've seen a massive bump since Potato dropped that video about Old World. So hopefully we're going to ride on some coattails and we're going to get a little bit more exposure on the channel. So whatever you can to get us and, press the attack on this one and get us out there, the more we can expand the community. So thankful for you guys giving me the opportunity to do this. So thankful for the viewer base that we've been able to cultivate so far. And until next time, guys, happy conquering.